Welcome back to Inside Nashville, where our guest today is Steve Buchanan, Senior Vice President of Gaylord's Media and Entertainment Group. We were talking in our last segment about the Ryman, and I jokingly referred to you as the Joseph Campbell of modern music attractions in terms of having to make sure you sustain that myth, the icon aspect of it, but also you've got to balance that with you're running a business. In a lot of places, the Ryman, even the Opry, WSM-AM, might be housed in the current business models as a foundation or a 501, but you're sitting there running these businesses that are older than most in a new environment that's new technology driven. It's all about the next big thing, but you're dealing with these historical icons in a business environment that requires you to, and you've got a publicly traded parent company. Right. So there's that constant grind of the business. Taking the step from the Ryman over to the Opry, what are some of the strategies? So you move from the Ryman, you go to the Opry, you get over there right about the time that a pool of 1 million visitors that were going there for the park closes, you lose that pool, but yet the Opry has experienced, I'd say, increased revenue, profit. What were the strategies? You came over and you started looking at what it needed to be done. What were some of the first things that you started to employ? And what are the strategies that you continue to employ, again, to try to strike the balance of all that?
Yeah. I think that first off, you're dealing in a world where intangibles are important and tangible things are important. You're dealing in a world where a lot of people have an opinion. And that's actually even far more dramatic today because it's much easier to express your opinion than through internet-based medium. But I think that in large part, I wanted to not be overly protective, if one could express that simply as a strategy. And that you're dealing with, I think that if you look at it in a for-profit versus not for-profit standpoint, and I would say that don't want to be overly protective. We want to think entrepreneurially. And we want to look at how we are looking at it in a progressive way that is not just respectful, not just honoring, but is connected to where we've come from. And if you look at the continuum over 80 plus years of the changes that have taken place for the Opry, changes have taken place that you see that there are lots of things that have changed, and that a lot of times people's memory is locked in what it meant to them at a particular moment in time. And it's important not really to get locked in to anything, but to really kind of dissect it and understand kind of what are the key components that contribute to what we want to be in the future. What are those? I think that one of the greatest exercises that we went through was really dissecting kind of what are those core attributes that whether we're communicating them or not, that we understand them in such a way that we can utilize them as being at the heart of where we're going and where we want to head. I think if you think of a business or you think of a product in terms of those unique characteristics, the attributes, its personality, then that makes it easier for people ultimately to relate to it, and you're communicating things that hopefully will attract their interest.
And still at the very core of it, as an attraction, you're dependent upon artists showing up, artists caring, artists being involved. Right. How have you managed that process?
It's so important in terms of relationships, and it's so important in terms of people feeling like that the door is open. I think that we've gotten to the point where a lot of people felt like that it was unattainable. They need to feel like that it is attainable, not attainable. Not
in terms of membership, you mean?
Well, in terms of as a place to perform.
I get it. Okay.
And ultimately, in terms of membership, we are selective, but we want people to feel like that there is a dialogue that is going on, that can be had, and I think that's I feel like that's critical to giving us the sustenance that we need to survive, because our product is people, and so that they are what carries us forward. Management makes decisions about various business decisions. I think that probably the even more impactful element, though, is what the artists give back.
Meaning what?
What they give back in terms of their participation and how they express the connection that they have. And it's not only expressing the connection, but Carrie Underwood, Vince Gill, Keith Urban, Brad Paisley. You take any of those artists, and they become the new heroes.
Right.
To many, they already are the new heroes. But at some point, there's somebody that's out there as a fan who sees what it means to Carrie Underwood. That person then grows up, becomes the next generation performer, and they want to experience the same thing that was important to Carrie.
So just for our viewers, tell us, who are some of you mentioned Carrie, you mentioned Vince, who are some of the top names that are currently members of the Opry right now?
Yeah, it's, that's one of the coolest things about the Opry, is that it does span from Carrie Underwood to little Jimmy Dickens, little Jimmy, who's over 90 years old, and still an amazing entertainer. But Charlie Daniels is a member of the Opry, and Charlie actually became a member within the last 5 years. But it's something that is so important to him, and when he's on that stage, everyone knows it. They know how important it is to him, and they experience it in terms of from an entertainment perspective. But Josh Turner, mentioned Brad, the class of '89 with Alan Jackson and Vince, Marty Stewart, Ricky Skaggs, both guys that really carry on the traditions of their forefathers, but they're doing it in their own way.
Right.
And so, I think that we probably try and look at it in the same way. We want to carry on the traditions of our forefathers, but you got to take a fresh look at it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Keith, who's brand new. I guess is he the most recent inductee?
Keith, yes, Keith Urban is the most recent
and
inductee.
Rascal Flatts was inducted last year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very much a very broad range, like you said. It's very, very current. And I understand, and I know that Taylor, when she's in town and can, she's been very active and involved in that.
Yes, we've been very fortunate over the last few years that artists of that stature, as well as new artists on the scene who are having their first success at radio, and that their star is starting to rise, that they want to make that debut. And a lot of times there are great stories behind that. There are great personal stories of whether it was from when they came to the Opry for the very first time and sat out in that crowd and dreamed of being on that stage, or it's connected back to family or friends, but it's always something that has a very personal relationship for them, beyond just, okay, here I am, I'm going to walk out this place and stand out there and sing a song.
It's more than playing a gig.
It's a deeper story.
Right. We're here on Inside Nashville with Steve Buchanan, who's the Senior Vice President of Gaylord's Media and Entertainment Group, and we'll be right back. That was good.